Okay, so 5 traits of extremely toxic people. I've seen them myself. I've seen them punch walls. I've seen them do all kinds of crazy things, and I can spot them a mile away. And I want you to be able to spot them a mile away. So make sure you watch all the way till the end because I'm going to be giving you each one of them, and I'm going to save the best one till the end. All right. So, number 5 trait of extremely toxic people is they never take responsibility for their actions. It's always project and deflect. Project and deflect. It's always someone else's fault, right? It's always someone else. It's never their fault. And boy, have I seen this. They're so good at making it someone else's fault, making sure that someone else gets to take the blame. And, this is something you definitely see a lot with narcissists, especially when they get caught in lies. And I definitely have a video on that. What happens when you catch a narcissist in a lie? They project and deflect. It's someone else's fault. And they never take responsibility for their actions. And part of the reason why you see narcissists never take responsibility for their actions is because they have that fragile inner sense of self, that fragile sense of inner child, inner self, which is like if they take responsibility somehow for themselves, then it takes away from who they are. Then it takes away from, somehow they fall apart, somehow they don't survive. Somehow there's like that hollow inner self, and they literally become unglued. They literally become triggered. That inner sense of self is so fragile that they have to push it off on other people. They don't feel whole, they don't feel complete. And so that's why they never take responsibility for their actions. That's the first trait of extremely toxic people. So if you have one of those people around you that just never takes responsibility, then run for the hills. Number 4 is people who are very critical, always making you wrong, always making you feel like you're small, always making you feel like you are to blame for their problems. It's always you. You are the problem. You're the one. It's never their fault. It's never them. They don't have to ever take responsibility for anything that they do, and you're the one that triggers them. You're the one who has the problem. They're very critical, extremely judgmental of everything around them. They don't like anyone. If that's how they are, there's something very wrong. But they're always making you feel small, you feel bad. And if you're around them and you are constantly feeling small and bad, then you know that they're probably extremely toxic. You want to be around people that when you walk away from them, you feel lighter, you feel better. They're fanning your flames. You feel like, I just want to be around that person more because they make me feel really great every time I'm around them. All right. So that's number 4. Number 3 is a person who is always making themselves out to be a victim. That's the third type of person who's extremely toxic. Have you ever been around this type of a person? They're just constantly a victim. They're constantly, everything is woe is me. Everything is bad. No matter how much it seems like their life is great, they're just always a victim. Covert narcissists are really, really great at that. And if you want to know more about covert narcissists, I definitely have a video about covert narcissists, about especially covert narcissism in relationships, and you should definitely check that out. All right. So that's number 3. And if you guys have seen this so far, give me a totally in the comments. So that's number 3. Number 2, this is where the person is just always talking bad about other people. This is that one who's just like constantly talking bad about other people behind their backs. And you just know they're definitely talking bad about you too. I mean, if they're talking bad about other people to you, they're talking bad about you when they're with other people too. I mean, that's just how people are. And so that's just a trait of an extremely toxic person. People who feel good about people don't do that. And I go back to the four agreements, which is never to take anything personally. This is a book which I highly recommend. It's one of my top reads. And it's four agreements that you make with yourself. One of the agreements is to never take anything personally because people treat other people the way they feel about themselves, good or bad. So if somebody treats other people badly, it's because they feel bad about themselves. Hurt people, right? So if somebody feels good about themselves, then they treat other people well. If somebody feels like crap about themselves, then they treat other people poorly. And so people who talk badly about other people, it's just somebody who just feels toxic inside. So they just are a toxic person in general. And that's just not the type of person that you really want to spend your time with. There's an old saying that says, if you really want to know where you are in life, take a look around and see who the top 5 people are in your life. And that'll tell you where you are in life and what kinds of a quality of where you are in life. So you want to make sure that the top people in your life are super quality people. I always say defend your light with your life and make sure that the people who are closest to you are people who you really want to defend your spirit and defend your light. Right. So that's number 2. And number 1, the number 1 most toxic person in the world, people who lie, people who don't have integrity, right? Liars, 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 pants on fire. People who don't have integrity. Without integrity, nothing works. People who lie. And those narcissists, they are pathological liars. They lie about everything. They lie about things they don't even need to lie about, which is the crazy thing to me. And that's where you end up getting your leverage, by the way. That's where you end up being able to create your patterns, create your strategy, all that good stuff for your cases, for your negotiations. Narcissists have a confession to make, and that is that they are way more afraid of you than you are of them, especially in court cases, mediation cases, or any kind of cases where you have to negotiate with them. But you know what? I have a confession to make too. I'm sick and tired of these people bullying you and making you feel exhausted and paying way too much in attorney's fees and dragging you through the mud. My name is Rebecca Zung, and I'm an attorney. I've been recognized by U.S. News as one of the best lawyers in America. And in fact, I was so sick and tired of these people bullying you that I started studying narcissism so that I could beat them in the courtroom. And now I'm here to make the case so that you can win too. I developed a 4-part proven blueprint that has helped tens of thousands of people take back their freedom, win, and get back their power. And now I'm sharing it with you in a special live event, Outsmart the Narcissist, the 4-part proven plan to take back your power. 4 simple steps, 1 free live event, 1 free hour of your life. That's what stands between you being in hell and you being free. Join me, click the link for Outsmart the Narcissist, the 4-step proven plan to take back your power. Just click the link and let's go. We're going to have 7 ways that you can 100% rely on narcissists. There's lots of things that you can rely on narcissists not to do, but what can you 100% rely on them to do? Okay. Number one, you can 100% rely on them to ruin special occasions. And why is that? Why do they love to ruin special occasions? Well, they don't want to see you getting the attention. They hate when you are getting attention or other people are getting attention. I mean, that's just the bottom line. There is a supreme example in the whole Will Smith, Jada situation. I'm telling you, what a better example than right there. Here it was, the pinnacle of his career. He is supposed to get his Oscar, and Chris Rock is there. He's supposed to make jokes about celebrities. That's his job. And, I get that this is my opinion, but, he makes a joke about Jada's bald head. And everybody knows at this point that 2 days before the Oscars, she had made a TikTok video that said, I don't give two craps about this bald head. She said she didn't care about it. Chris Rock says something about the bald head, and everybody's laughing, including Will Smith. And what happens? She gives him the look. If you had read Will Smith's book, you know that he was triggered by that because he didn't protect his mom, or he felt like he was supposed to have protected his mom when he was 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. And his father, he had beaten his mom when he was a kid, and he felt like he should have been able to protect her. And so when Jada gave him the look, he was triggered by that. And so there he goes, and he goes up there and he does this thing, and she ruins that special occasion for him. But, I've done other videos on YouTube about that, where why narcissists love to ruin holidays. I highly encourage you to check those out. Why do narcissists love to ruin holidays? Why do they love to ruin your birthday? Because they can't stand for other people to be getting that attention. They just absolutely drives them crazy because other people are taking that supply away from them. So you can 100% rely on a narcissist to ruin special occasions. That's number one. Number two, the next thing that you can 100% rely on a narcissist to do is treat strangers better than you. You can 100% rely on that because it's that face, right? That outward thing, where they are 100% want to look better than to the outside world. That's that diamond level supply that I talk about. That is more important to them than what's going on inside because, they don't have that internal sense of value. So they're constantly trying to feed their emptiness inside and trying to feed it from external sources is better than internal sources. And so, because they already have you right there, and they can treat you poorly, degrading you, debasing you, and controlling you, and they get a sense of supply from that as well. So that's another form of supply that they're already getting from you. So by adulate them, like in other words, they want the strangers to give them adulation and compliments and that sort of thing. And if they can get that from the strangers, oh, you're so wonderful, you're so amazing, all that sort of thing. Well, then that's even better from their perspective. So that's why they treat strangers better than you. And so you can definitely 100% rely on that. They want strangers to think that they're wonderful. They're basically love bombing the strangers all the time. So you can 100% rely on that. So the number three thing that you can 100% rely on a narcissist to do is project and deflect. They will always project and deflect, meaning they're not going to take responsibility. So, if you for sure show like you were supposed to do this thing, or, I used to have people who would work for me or whatever, and they were supposed to complete a task or whatever. Oh, it was always somebody else. It was somebody else's fault. It was always something happened or whatever. I mean, they can never, ever, ever take responsibility, project and deflect it, or it's your fault. If you had just been better, or if this had just happened, or whatever, they can never, ever, ever take responsibility. And part of that is because they don't have any sense of self worth, they don't have any sense of value. And so if they have to take responsibility, then somehow it takes away from them. So that's number three. Number four is what I call lying and denying. I mean, it's very closely related to projecting and deflecting, but it's a little bit different. And that is that, they will always lie and deny. And so, again, even if you present like complete a text message or obvious evidence that says, you did this thing, you said this thing. No, didn't happen. Nope. Lying and denying. They will absolutely lie right to your face. And hey, that becomes great leverage, by the way. If you end up having to litigate against them, you end up having a case with them. That's how you build your case. That's how you start building your summaries. That's how you start building your leverage, which is what I teach you guys. And if you want to know more about what happens when you catch a narcissist in a lie, definitely have a YouTube video on that. Highly encourage you guys to check that out. And if you agree with me so far, highly encourage you write amen in the comments here, because you know that what I'm saying is true so far, right? I know you guys have seen this. So, 100% you can rely on a narcissist to do these things so far, right? All right. So the number five thing that you can 100% rely on a narcissist to do is gaslight. All narcissists gaslight. Whether you're dealing with a covert narcissist, a grandiose narcissist, a malignant narcissist, whatever supreme kind of narcissist you're dealing with, you can 100% rely on a narcissist to gaslight. They all gaslight. So, what is gaslighting? Gaslighting is when they're trying to make you think you're crazy. I mean, they literally are trying to basically say that what you're seeing with your eyes, what you're hearing with your ears, what you're experiencing with your senses is not true, is not happening, is not what you're experiencing. And it literally eventually makes you think that you're crazy. I mean, I've been honest and candid with you guys in the sense that I have dealt with narcissists in my own life, not just in my law practice, which obviously I've seen a ton of them in my law practice as well, but I've had to deal with a couple of covert narcissists in my personal life. I had one as a business partner, and my husband and I had one in our family. And, I've personally had to deal with gaslighting, and it's really just insane when you're experiencing this gaslighting, when you've had a conversation with somebody and they literally come back and say, oh, we talked about that, don't you remember? And you didn't have that conversation, or that the conversation was something different than what you talked about. It's crazy. Or when they are presenting something that's completely different. I've actually seen it in court. I've actually seen lawyers who will say, this is what the court order said, and the court order says something completely different. And even when presented with what the court order actually says, they'll say, well, I know that's what it says, but that's not what it says. And trying to convince the judge that it says something different, even though in black and white, it'll say something different, just to try to see if they can get the judge to be convinced. And sometimes the judge will be convinced. I mean, it's pretty powerful, this gaslighting sometimes. So it's a scary kind of a tactic when somebody can be that influential, and especially when they're working on that person all the time. It's a tactic to destabilize you. It's a control tactic, and they've used it daily, day in and day out over time and over years. It can definitely be very, very effective. So that's number 5, and that's gaslighting. So number 6 of the 7 things that you can 100% rely on a narcissist to do is love bombing. And I also include in here, this number 6, future faking, narcissist, faux apologies. You know, some people say apologies. I call them faux apologies, FAOU, because they're fake. Fake apologies, which they use when they're needed. It's all a manipulation. Everything is a manipulation. Everything they do, say, every time they try to love bomb you, it's a manipulation. Every time they try to future fake you, it's a manipulation. It's all a game. It's all meant to manipulate you. It's all an attempt to manipulate you. And this I insert here at number 6 for a reason. The reason why I'm inserting it here at number 6, right before number 7, which I haven't gotten to number 7 yet, and you need to stay until I get to number 7 for a reason, is because this is where you're like, oh my God, I can't take it anymore. I'm out of here. You're plotting and planning to get the heck out of there. And if you're in a romantic relationship, you're packing your suitcase, maybe you visited the divorce attorney. If you're in a business relationship, you're finally like, okay, how do I get out of this thing? And now they come back. Now they start to realize, oh, they're leaving. My supply is walking out the door. So they start to love bomb you again. Now they start to future fake you. Now they start to apologize because they don't want their supply source to leave. Oh, things will be better. Or they start to do the things that they were supposed to do in the first place. This is what I saw in my business relationship with the person that I was in the relationship with. All of a sudden, the person started doing all the things that she was supposed to do before. You know, she started completing all the tasks that she said that she was going to do and then never had done. For me personally, I was like annoyed because I thought, oh, so you did know that what you were supposed to do, you just weren't doing it. So that for me, that wasn't helpful. But for other people, you know, who are in an intimate relationship, they could get sucked back in, and oftentimes very much are, because they hear what they wanted to hear, especially, you know, if you've invested a lot of time, you have children, maybe financially you're tied. This is where they're really, really good at saying exactly what they need to say in order to charm that person back into the fold. So 100%, you can rely on a narcissist to get that person back because they don't want to see their supply source gone. Not that they love you. Don't confuse number 6, the love bombing, the future faking, or the faux apology with love. And it can be very, very confusing. Don't confuse this with they actually have affection for you, they love you, they want you, or anything like that. This is definitely a manipulation. All right, number 7, we made it to number 7. Number 7 is you can 100% rely on them to drain the life out of you because they are sucking all of that energy from you. They are energy vampires. Before I knew these terms, I used to say that, you know, when I was dealing with a narcissist, I used to say it was like a leech. I didn't know why I felt that way, but I felt that way. I mean, you can 100% rely because it is a black hole. That need for supply that they have, it can never be filled. You are expected to try to fill it, but you can never fill it. And so that's number 7 is you can 100% rely on them to drain the life out of you and you will end up feeling completely depleted, completely drained, and you're going to end up feeling like your soul is sucked. Fed up with narcissists walking all over you? Sick of everyone believing their lies while you're paying through the nose in attorney's fees? What if you could hold all the cards for a change? Hey, I'm Rebecca Zung. I'm a top 1% trial attorney, a USA Today bestselling author, and I've spent my entire career helping people slay narcissists in negotiations, most recently through my proven slay method. What if your suffering could become your superpower? Imagine turning all that pain into power, not just for you, but for others too. This is your chance to take back control. You can finally win. Become a high conflict negotiation certified coach. Help others while transforming your own life and do good for the world. This is your chance. Go to RebeccaZung.com/apply and I'll show you how to turn the tables for good starting today. 10 tactics that narcissists use to get people to comply. So one of the ways that they do is they start off by love bombing you. They start mirroring you. They become like you. They want you to think that they're just like you. All right. So they even talk like you. They look like you. They even dress like you, sometimes super weird. So that's number one. They actually study you and they try to be just like you. Oh my God, you must be like my soulmate. Whether it's in business or your neighbor or whatever, they make it seem like you're just like long lost soulmates. So that's number one. They train you to comply by seeming at the beginning like you were meant for each other. That's number one. Number two, the next thing they do is this intermittent reinforcement, this hot and cold. And there's actually a study done by this psychologist named Robert Sapolsky, and he did this study on monkeys, where if these monkeys got a reward every single time, the monkeys didn't even really care. But if they got a reward intermittently, just the anticipation that they were going to get a reward caused the dopamine levels in their brain to rise to the level of cocaine. Like they were so excited about maybe they were going to get a reward. And the fact that narcissists, like they go from hot, super hot, love bomb to immediately cold, ghosting. Who are you? What are you doing? To, oh my God, love bomb, future fake, we'll be together. Oh, cold again. That intermittent reinforcement, that is a way to train you to comply. All right. Hot and cold, number two. Number three, isolating you. They start isolating you from the people who love you. I'm the one that loves you the most. I'm the one that gives you the most. Nobody else cares about you like I do. Isolating you from your family and friends. Number four way narcissists use to train you to comply is passive aggression. Covert narcissists, they love this. I've seen this myself personally, unfortunately. Ugh. Passive aggression. They say they're going to do something, then they don't do it. You've lost so much weight. I mean, you look pretty good for a big girl. Very passive aggressive. So that's number four. The number five way tactic that narcissists use to train you to comply, micro manipulations. Little ways of micro manipulating you, getting you to do things that you don't want to do, forcing you to, you didn't really mean that, DMing you little things in your DM box. Oh, I didn't really mean for you to see that. Dropping little drama bombs. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. My doctor wasn't sure. Oh, I didn't mean for you to see that. Well, I know you don't really care. Little micro manipulations, little things like that. That's another tactic that narcissists use to train you to comply. Number six is gaslighting. All narcissists love the gaslighting. You're so oversensitive. You're misrepresenting the facts. You are misremembering. We talked about that, don't you remember? And I have a whole video on narcissist favorite gaslighting phrases. You definitely check that one out. They all love the gaslighting. Number 7. Number 7 is I was only joking, which is a form of gaslighting, but I definitely wanted to highlight it because it is so egregious. When you add like ha to the end of a sentence that is super hurtful, it doesn't make it funny. And I've so seen this from so many narcissists that I really wanted to just specifically highlight it because they definitely use this to train you to comply. It is definitely a tactic that they use, and it's just not good. It's not funny, and it is something that they use to train you to comply. And if you don't think it's funny, I want you to put that in the comments. It's not funny. Number 8. The number 8 way that they use to train you to comply is guilt. Well, I guess I'll just stay here by myself while you go off for the holidays, and I'll just be over here alone. Number 9 is playing the victim. Coverts love to play the victim. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair that you get this and I don't. Or I'm so sick, or things never go my way. Life is terrible to me. We all have our lessons in life. We should not be playing the victim. Narcissists love to play the victim. Number 10 tactic that narcissists use to train you to comply. Narcissists love them some flying monkeys. They love their flying monkeys. They love to use the flying monkeys because then you feel bullied. They're armies of people lined up so that you feel like everybody is ganging up on you. Here's the thing that was like kind of like the aha moment for me. The flying monkeys don't always know that they're being like recruited sometimes. Like a lot of times the flying monkeys are kind of being love bombed by the narcissist too. They're not like in on it a lot of times. So you kind of like can't always like even blame them. Sometimes it is what it is. You just got to like get away from the whole toxic thing. Like sage yourself, sage everything about you, and just get away from the whole thing. Americans spend up to 90% of their time indoors and take 20,000 breaths a day. Yet, according to the EPA, indoor air is actually more polluted than outdoor air. And in fact, 100 times more polluted than outdoor air. In fact, it's responsible for up to 7 million premature deaths annually. And I know for us, we have had issues with asthma. My daughter has struggled with asthma. And that's why we're so excited to find Air Doctor. Air Doctor has captured the attention of huge media outlets such as CNN, Money, ABC, and more. And it filters out 99.9% of dangerous contaminants and allergens such as pollen, pet dander, dust mites, and mold, and even bacteria and viruses. So your lungs don't have to do all of that extra work. So right now, Air Doctor also comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you don't love it, you just send it back for a refund minus shipping. So head to airdoctorpro.com and use the promo code Your Best Life, and depending on the model, you receive up to 39% off and up to $300 off. Exclusive to podcast customers, you'll also receive a 3-year warranty on any unit, which is an additional $84 value. Lock in this special offer by going to AIRDOCTORPRO.com and use the promo code Your Best Life. How we can spot the super sneaky manipulative tactics of highly toxic people and how they hijack your mind without you even knowing it. Insidious tactics that they use, right? To hijack your mind. One of the things that they do, really the main thing I want to talk about, is pattern interruption and many different forms of pattern interruption. And the problem with pattern interruption is that you never get to think. You never get to think straight. And what is pattern interruption exactly? And what it is it disrupts your established pattern of thinking. You start to think, you start to have a thought process, and you want to be able to get your thoughts going, and they don't let you. It's almost like a mental speed bump. You're going, you're moving, and then they stop you. And there are many different ways that they stop you. Obviously, just interrupting you in general, interrupting you're talking, and they go, "No, that's not it." So, of course, that's a way of interrupting you. And it's almost like behavioral traffic, just stopping you and making you stop, right? Of course, that makes you stop. But when you're dealing with toxic personalities, pattern interruption can be used in a number of different ways, creating something that we call cognitive dissonance. And it throws you off track. And it's about taking control of the conversation. It's about setting boundaries. It's about taking control of your mind and throwing you off balance. And when this happens to you over and over and over again, it actually is a form of gaslighting. And it's basically being told your feelings aren't valid, your perceptions aren't valid, and your viewpoint isn't valid. And it's really an overall attack on you. It can happen over and over and over again, so that you lose your footing, you lose your ground, and it can happen in a number of different ways. And what I want to explain to you about this over time is cognitive dissonance is something that can actually over time be a phenomenon. And I want to explain what that is. It can make you feel utterly confused over time, so that you no longer even trust your own mind after a while. You actually feel like your own mind is distorted after a while, so that you now are starting to trust that other person's mind more than your own. And you start to not even trust your own senses after a while, and perceive that maybe you are correct. I don't know. And it's utterly traumatic. So that when you are going to negotiate, and you go stand at the or sit at the negotiation table, you are not sitting at a table where you feel equal to the other person. So very few people understand the impact that narcissists have on the people around them. The majority of people see two people sitting at a table, and they don't understand that the person who's sitting across from that other person really may not be mentally strong. The other problem with it is that the other psychological trauma that can be caused is something that we call CPTSD, which is something I think is even potentially worse than PTSD. PTSD is something that happens as a result of one incident, such as war or an accident or something like that. CPTSD is complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which is something that happens over time as a result of repeated trauma. And it could be, years that this has happened with a person, especially if you've been in a longer term relationship with a highly toxic person, even if it's a professional relationship, by the way. So people who have CPTSD can experience difficulty with sleep, flashbacks, problems with emotional regulation, impairment in alertness, and have difficulty even performing regular daily tasks if you're re-experiencing issues with that trauma, you can have sometimes problems with migraines, feeling hopeless. It can definitely impact your mental acuity as well. There are definitely issues with problems with this constant issues with this pattern interruption. Now, let me talk about the way that pattern interruption can take place. Interruption can take place in a number of different ways. So you're starting to have your thought, you're starting to talk, and the person will come along and they'll say, "Why are you bringing that up now?" And you're like, "Well, when would be a good time to bring that up?" You're starting to have another thought, and they'll say, "But you just literally interrupted me." They'll accuse you of doing the interrupting. And you're like, I didn't interrupt you. And then you start to have the thought again, and they'll say, "Now you're raising your voice." I didn't raise my voice. And again, you try to have the conversation, and they're off topic, off topic, off topic. You never get to have a word in. They're constantly trying to figure out ways you don't get to have your thought. By the way, another way that they'll have pattern interruption is by saying something good. Sometimes you see narcissists, and I've seen this in a professional setting too, where I've, as an attorney, been trying to make a point to another attorney, and they'll just interrupt me and say, "You look really nice today, by the way." Just to throw me off my game, or just be a jerk, just to interrupt what I'm saying. It looks like on the surface they're giving me a compliment, but what they're doing is trying to throw me off my game, trying to make a point that they're not really listening, disrupting my thought. And that's what they do, trying to get you to lose your footing, trying to get you to be confused, interrupt what you're saying, invalidate your feelings. And it's not okay. So, and if you agree with me, put "not okay" in the comments. And by the way, if you are negotiating with a narcissist or somebody narcissistic, make sure you grab my free Crush My Negotiation Prep worksheet at winmynegotiation.com. It's a free 15-page ebook, winmynegotiation.com. And if you need additional support, go to my free Facebook group at Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. And I do have a sponsor on this channel, which is BetterHelp, which you can go to betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung to get that help. It is a sponsor on this channel, which means we receive commissions. We have vetted them. It only recommends services that we trust, doesn't cost you any extra, right? But remember that pattern interruption is effective because it helps them gain control and shift that dynamic, and it disrupts your thinking. It helps that toxic person allow them to gain control. Then they can interject their narrative, and it forces you to be off your game. And then they come in and say whatever it is that they want to say. It shifts their paradigm and puts you in a position of defense. So remember, the key is to stand firm, stay in your game, stay in your power, and say, "Listen, we don't have to have this conversation. If you're going to continue to interrupt me, then we can wait until you're ready to have a conversation where you're not going to interrupt me." Stay firm, set your boundaries. You can just say, "We can talk later when you're ready to have a conversation with me, when you're not going to interrupt me," that sort of thing. And I have another video on where narcissists are trying to desperately regain control. It's called 5 Telltale Signs of a Narcissist's Desperate Last Bid to Regain Control, which you can definitely check that out. I highly recommend that you do. But if you're dealing with a toxic personality, learning these tools are incredibly empowering. Regain your boundaries, stand firm, and make sure that you do. And I definitely recommend that you get my book, slaythebully.com, join my launch team, because I delve into all of that there. So make sure that you do that too. Remember that today is a great day to start negotiating your best life. Making that transition between summer and fall is always a crazy thing. And that's why I love having a leather jacket, like my gorgeous one from Quince. And they have timeless and high quality items, which I love. And they don't blow my budget, which I also love. They have cashmere sweaters and washable silk tops. And everything is like 50 to 80% less than other brands, which I also love. They cut out the middleman. They pass the savings on to us, which is also amazing. It's safe and ethical, which I also love. I really love my brown leather jacket from them. It's super stylish and it's high quality. Just love that. So make switching seasons a breeze with Quince's high quality closet essentials. Go to quince.com/negotiate for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/negotiate to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/negotiate. We are tackling a very important topic today on why narcissists can't really apologize. And if you're endlessly waiting over there for a real apology, you're not alone, because you're feeling like it's an unfair situation. You bought into the life that they promised, whether it was a romantic situation, whether it was a work situation, maybe it's even a family situation, who knows? But you expected a certain thing. They set a tone of some sort, and maybe they set this tone over and over and over again. Narcissists keep you alive on hope, and then they dash it over and over again with their string of broken promises over and over and over again. They're really good at lip service. They're terrible at following through. Will they ever apologize? Not and mean it. I mean, it's not to say that they don't use the word sometimes. If they ever do apologize, it's manipulative. I always say it's a faux apology. And why can't they apologize in a meaningful way without saying things like, I'm sorry that you made me do it, or it wasn't my intention, or, whatever it is. There's never a real, genuine, heartfelt apology that is all about you, all about how they hurt you, and really with empathy, and meaning that their behavior is actually going to change and that you're going to see real, genuine emotion behind it, an understanding of whatever it is that they cause. Let's dive into this, okay? You're dealing with a person who has a very, very fragile ego, and they have an inflated sense of self-importance because they are actually the person who has the most pain, the most shame, the most deep-seated insecurity of them all. What you see going on out here is actually a huge mask for what's going on inside of here, which is they feel small. They feel tiny inside. And so apologizing, basically exposing that pain, that shame, that small person inside. It's already so fragile that it basically breaks that. It's like survival for them. An apology is actually like, I'm not going to survive if I have to expose myself. I don't survive if I expose myself, because there's already such a fragile thing going on inside of there. That false sense of superiority, that false sense of all of this that's going on. It's such a lying in the balance up here that one small little thing can be a fissure in all of that. If they say something like any little bit, if they say something like, you're too sensitive, or I was just trying to help you, that deflection serves to protect their ego from the vulnerability that comes from admitting any faults. It serves as a way to avoid their own shortcomings and the emotional impact of their behavior because they already feel so small. They can't absorb any more to that already fragile small ego. The second reason that they can't apologize, they have a complete lack of empathy. And that lack of empathy means that they don't have any understanding to the impact of their actions, nor do they care about the impact of their actions. And so because they have that limited capacity, they don't see things from another person's perspective. So it makes it difficult for them to understand or acknowledge nor care about the pain that they've caused. So they really have no time for it. They see it all as a waste of time. They see it all as something that they have to deal with. It's impatience for them. And so consider this example. A narcissistic partner forgets an important date, like an anniversary. When you express your disappointment, they respond with, "You're overreacting. I had a lot on my mind." They fail to see how their actions affected you emotionally. In a workplace context, a narcissistic boss might take credit for a team member's work. When the team member confronts them, instead of apologizing, the boss might say, "Well, it was my idea anyway," or "You should be happy I noticed your work at all." These kinds of statements completely discount the person's feelings. This lack of empathy prevents them from acknowledging the hurt and unfairness of their actions. They just completely don't see it. Okay. So those are examples of the lack of empathy. If you agree with me so far, put "sorry, not sorry" in the comments below. I'm sure all of you guys have seen this before. The next reason is the need for control. Narcissists have a relentless need for control. Apologizing requires relinquishing control and admitting vulnerability, which narcissists find intolerable. They perceive apologies as a loss of power. In a personal relationship, a narcissist might refuse to apologize for making a unilateral decision, for example, like making a decision on their own, something that affects both people. For example, let's say they decide to move to a new city without consulting the other person in the relationship. And then when the person confronts them, they might say, "Well, but I already knew it was the best decision for us." They just jump to whatever the conclusion is. They don't, again, this kind of goes back to the no empathy thing, or it's like they don't see the impact. "Well, you should trust my judgment." Apologizing would mean they made a mistake or yielding control. All of these things they're unwilling to do. They're unwilling to see. They don't want to apologize. They don't want to see the impact. In a work setting, if a narcissistic manager implements a failed strategy, they might avoid taking responsibility by saying it wasn't executed properly by the team, or the market conditions were unpredictable. They avoid apologizing because it would mean admitting their strategy was flawed, thereby losing control over the narrative. So what they do is they go right to the outcome, but they don't want to look at what happened. They don't want to have to apologize for their actions. Have you ever experienced a situation where narcissists fail to apologize? I'm sure that you have. So share your story below in the comments. Your experiences help others who are going through these similar challenges. And here's the thing. I want you all to forget about getting a narcissist to see your side, acknowledge you, think that things are going to be fair, because they're never going to be. I would say never jade. I always wear jade, right? Because I'm half Chinese and I'm half German, but never jade. Never justify, argue, defend, or explain, because you're never going to get a narcissist to see your side. Next reason that they don't apologize is because they just don't want to have to admit that they're wrong. Again, it goes back to that fragile ego. They're already so fragile. They're already feeling so small. Think about it. People who are feeling authentically powerful, people who feel powerful, who feel big, who feel good about themselves. They have no problem. Hey, I'm really sorry I did that. Let me handle that for you. Let me take care of that. They have no problem being the bigger person, the good person, who they are in their skin, because they know who they are. It's the people who feel small. It's the people who already are so fragile that it's all lying in the balance all the time. Apologizing opens the door to more criticism, rejection, even abandonment. They're fear-based people, fear-based individuals. They desperately are trying to avoid this. They're closed off people. This fear leads them to deny any wrongdoing, even in the face of overwhelming evidence. You can say whatever. You can put a phone with evidence in their face, or you can put papers in front of their face, witnesses, whatever. They'll say whatever they need to. They're not going to admit. Imagine a scenario where a narcissistic colleague is caught spreading false rumors about another coworker. When confronted, instead of apologizing, they might say, I was just passing along what I heard, or everyone else was talking about it. They'll deny their role to avoid potential backlash and consequences of their action. In another instance, a narcissistic partner who's been unfaithful might vehemently deny any wrongdoing despite clear evidence, right? I mean, I've had situations where I was representing somebody who she saw a husband going into, she followed him and this other woman all the way to a hotel. They checked into the hotel. They went into the hotel. They were in there for like an hour and a half or 2 hours, whatever it is, saw them come out of the hotel, took pictures, the whole thing. He said they were just in there talking. Like, obviously, she didn't go into the room with them. They just went into the room and they talked. You're imagining things. You're just insecure. They refuse to apologize because admitting to their actions could lead to the end of the relationship or damage their reputation. They're not going to apologize. So you have to be the one to stand up for yourself and stand in your own power. And if you're ready to negotiate with a narcissist, you need power. Get my free Crush My Negotiation prep playbook at winmynegotiation.com. 15 pages. People have literally won their entire negotiations with it. winmynegotiation.com. That'll help you get started. Remember, understanding why narcissists can't apologize we're not excusing their behavior here, people. I want you to empower yourself so that you can help yourself. What if you could just take a shot and lose all the weight you wanted to? I know for me, a few years ago, I was dealing with thyroid issues, menopause issues, autoimmune issues, all the things, and I gained a bunch of weight and I lost it all, but it took forever. And I wish that something like Robody had been around back then to help me lose the weight. But now you get the benefit of it because Robody is now around to help you lose weight. It's just one shot a week. And combined with a healthy lifestyle, you can lose 15 to 20% of your weight in a year on average and actually keep it off. They've helped more than 200,000 people so far, and they help you even with support, with getting the medication through your insurance and everything that you need so that you can actually lose the weight. That means that it's such a great opportunity for you now. So average weight loss is 15 to 20% in a year with a healthy lifestyle change, and BMI and other eligibility criteria apply. Go to ro.co/Rebecca. Sign up today and you'll pay just $99 a month for your first month and $145 a month after that. And medication costs are separate. That's ro.co/Rebecca. Amber Heard was cross-examined on Monday, and not only was she crushed and it was a bloodbath, but it also really displayed how much she is a total narcissist. And I'm going to break it all down for you in this video. Hey there, I'm Rebecca Zung, and I'm an attorney. I'm also a narcissist negotiation expert. And I was watching the cross-examination on Monday with really, really quite an interesting eye, because I've also done many different cross-examinations on clients before, or on people before, and opposing clients, I should say, in trials. And I thought, first of all, that Camille did a fantastic job. Camille Vasquez, who was Johnny Depp's attorney. And I thought it was really fascinating how she came across in a number of different ways. And I wanted to just break down a few of my thoughts and a few of the highlights, especially how I really kind of thought that she came across in her narcissistic way. So here are just a few of the highlights. But for one of the things, I did a video last week on my thoughts and my reactions to her direct examination, and you definitely want to check that out. In her cross examination, she didn't even bother with the fake crying and the bad acting this time. She just dispensed with that this time. So one of the things that you want to do when you are going to do a cross-examination as an attorney is you don't want to ask questions that you're not pretty sure that you are going to know the answers to. So, Camille did a good job of that. Here's the thing. She came across, meaning Amber, as a person who really didn't have feelings. She certainly didn't come across as a domestic violence victim. I mean, she wasn't, again, with this body language, and I mentioned this before, here's a person who's coming across as defensive or tough or even strong. I mean, almost like she was ready for a fight, no, yes, I mean, she's like almost like ready to come across the witness stand. I mean, this is not a person who's being questioned about, being punched and beat up and like reliving this. This is not a person who seemed like she was traumatized. I mean, if you're truly a domestic violence victim and you're being asked about these horrible events that took place, my nose was broken, I was beat up, I had all these, bruises and bloodied, and all the things that she was being accusing Johnny of having done to her and having to relive these moments. You're not going, yes, this happened, you're not acting like that, but that's how she was coming across. And so that's for one thing, and that's just sort of an overall thought. But, going back now down to the details, here's a person, she's asked questions like, you didn't want to relive it, but yet she writes this massive op-ed piece in the Washington Post. And then she frames the article, hangs it in her house. This is not a person who doesn't seem to, I don't want to relive it. She certainly doesn't seem to be afraid. Okay, so she's asked about the bruises on her face, okay? And there was this one line of questioning that I thought was very, very interesting, where she's asked about the bruises on her face, and that she accused him of hitting her in the face multiple times. And then Camille does a very good job of setting up this questioning where she gets her to admit that he wore many rings on his fingers often, and that she says, yes, I've always known him to wear many rings on his fingers often. He always has. And she agrees to that. And yet then she shows this picture that she took of her icing her face, and yet there's not one single bruise
or cut or open mark on her face, not one. And yet, you know, all the you know, that he had hit her multiple times on the face, and yet not one single bruise or mark on the face. So again, perfect, exposes her as a liar. Okay, so that was a great line of questioning by Camille. Totally crushed, totally exposes her as a liar. No, another one was where she's asked about this broken nose situation, where she says that she has this broken, bloodied nose, and that because he head butted her, and she said that she spent the entire night icing it and trying to figure out how she was going to cover it up because she had to go on the James Corden show the next day, and she put this super heavy makeup on, and how she was going to gamble and pull it off to show up the next day, and she had this whole team of people helping her makeup team. And you know, she referred to it as lesions on her head. Lesions was the word I think she used. And she even, you know, talked about the stinging of the makeup, and she used these words. She had to use this heavy makeup, heavier than usual, because she said that she had to carry this makeup with her every day because of her multiple beatings all the time. And by the way, of course, I talked about last time how she had the makeup that she referred to, that she carried with her all the time, that the company said they didn't even make that makeup during that period of time. But, I guess she came back and said, oh, it wasn't that makeup, it was some other version of that makeup, but whatever. So they show her on the James Corden show the next day, and her nose isn't even swollen. I mean, if your nose is going to be broken, it's at least going to be somewhat swollen. It's going to be, I mean, makeup can only do so much. Your lips are going to at least look swollen. And she doesn't even look, anything like there's anything going on. And so, it really, again, exposes her. And again, this is one of those things that I say all the time about narcissists. And this is one of the things that I want to pull out that, some of the other people who are potentially breaking down her testimony are probably not going to bring out. And that is that narcissists lie all the time, and they lie about things that are readily verifiable. And that's the thing that is, I think, actually mind-blowing. And they get away with it so often that they gamble to the point that it becomes their undoing, because they get away with it so much that they think that they're untouchable sometimes, and it ends up becoming their undoing. And I believe that that's what's going to end up happening here. Now, do I think that Johnny Depp is going to ultimately end up winning his case, which is the whole point of all of this spectacle? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know that he's going to be able to prove damages enough to be able to prove that that op-ed piece actually led to him losing that Pirates of the Caribbean movie and that Disney contract, which is honestly the whole point of this thing. People have lost sight of that. I don't know that either of them are going to win either of their cases, which is the whole point of this whole spectacle. But will she end up being exposed as the liar that she is? I do believe that she will. So that's that. And this is honestly, it becomes an insult to people who really are a victim of domestic abuse. I mean, who really have endured serious, who actually have had to try to put makeup on, who really have had to try to cover up bruises. I mean, that's the really, really sad part. And I do want to make sure that we do put the domestic abuse hotline below this video so that those of you out there who are watching who actually are victims of domestic abuse get the help that you need. And by the way, we do have a partnership with BetterHelp. So for those of you who are out there who need support, who are suffering, and please don't suffer, if you need therapy, you want online therapy, we are sponsored and we do receive support from BetterHelp. We are sponsored by BetterHelp, but we only partner with people who we trust. It doesn't affect any cost to you, but we only partner with people that we trust. And please get the help that you need, okay? So now, asked about the donations. Let's go into this whole line of questioning around the donations. And by the way, if you think this whole thing is so sick, put "so sick" in the comments. And, I want to know what you guys are thinking about this whole thing around Amber Heard too. I would love to hear your comments. All right, so let's get into her whole thing about the donations. She was asked about whether or not she actually donated the money because she had gone on these interviews and she, said that she donated the entire 7 million, that she didn't want it. It wasn't about the money. And then when asked about it, she never donated the money. She actually got the money. And the reason why she said she didn't donate the money was because she didn't want him to be able to get the tax write-off, that she wanted to be able to get the tax write-off, that she didn't want him to have that, so that she's intending to fulfill her obligation, but she hasn't actually done that yet. She still has the money. So, Camille said, you wanted it to seem believable. You wanted to be the noble victim, but she goes and tries to blame it on Johnny somehow, that she hasn't donated the money, that somehow it's his fault that she hasn't donated that money yet. Again, so narcissistic that somehow, even though she's gone out and told everybody that it wasn't about the money, that she, has donated this money to ACLU and the Children's Hospital, and that she wanted nothing, and that somehow that's his fault, and that it's because she didn't want him to have the tax break, that it's his problem, his responsibility, and that's why she hasn't done it yet. Okay, so that's those are some of the major highlights of her narcissistic cross-examination. I mean, there are a lot of others, but I really wanted to point out how she really ended up coming across as quite the narcissist in her cross-examination yesterday. It will continue today, and then there will be some redirect by her attorney, where her attorney will try to rehabilitate her and try to salvage her and make her look better.
Now, if you're dealing with that pesky narcissist who's probably quite the pain in the neck in your life, then here's what you need to be looking for, because anybody who either has narcissistic personality disorder or just narcissistic traits or tendencies, they tend to employ the same types of tricks to try to manipulate people into controlling them. It really doesn't matter if they are a covert narcissist or an overt narcissist, they still use the same kinds of tricks. So here are the things that you should be looking for. So number one is shaming and belittling. This is a very, very classic narcissistic trait, because remember that narcissists inside are actually the most insecure. They have absolutely no self-esteem, so they look for it all externally. And so they're looking for people to, of course, make them look good and tell them how wonderful they are. But in that process, they also need to try to make everybody else look worse, because they feel like that that's the only way that they're going to end up looking better. So they shame you, they belittle you, they do it both in public and in private. And sometimes they'll do it under the guise of, oh, I'm only joking, or can't you take a joke, or I'm just trying to help you. They use these hurtful words, and you rely on the fact that maybe one day you will be good enough. But trust me, you are already good enough. Number two thing that they do is try to gather a team. They gather a team against you. It's also called triangulation. And here is where they're going to try to go to the people that they especially think that you think a lot of, or that you might go to for your own advice or help. And they immediately try to get that person on their side. So they try to make themselves look good. They try to make you look bad. They try to gather this whole army of people to make it seem like the whole world is against you. And therefore, if you go against this narcissist, then you're really torpedoing yourself, because all these people are going to think badly of you too, because all these people love this particular person. So triangulation, or trying to gather people against you, is a very typical thing that narcissists do. So the third thing that narcissists do is they try to minimize or undervalue you. And this can often be very, very confusing, because what narcissists typically do is they start off telling you how amazing you are, how wonderful you are, how beautiful you are, how smart you are, how gorgeous you are, how handsome you are, whatever. And so you're sucked in to this, feeling that this person thinks that you're the most amazing thing that ever walked the earth. And so what happens is you're constantly trying to find that place again. Like, how did I have that? How can I get back to that? Because what happens is the relationship starts to erode, and they start to belittle you. They start to say, it looks like you're putting on weight, or maybe you're not that smart, or, they just start to undervalue you. So like, let's say you've done a lot for that person, and they'll minimize your contributions or the things that you've done, that make it seem like it's not that big of a deal, or they could have done it themselves, something like that. So it just never feels like you can catch back up to whoever that person was that loved you or thought you were amazing back in the beginning. Are you recognizing these traits so far? If you are, give me an amen in the comments. Okay, so the fourth thing that they do is they try to play the victim. And this can also feel confusing, because they start off seeming like so strong and that they can really take care of themselves, but then they'll start to say things to make it seem like you're doing something to them. Like, see, I can never get through to you. You never understand me, things like that. And this is especially something that covert narcissists do. And I have a whole video on covert narcissism in relationships, and I will post a link to that below. You're definitely going to want to check that out if you think that you're dealing with a covert narcissist. But remember that playing the victim, they're always sicker than you. They always have more on them than you do. They're always put upon. And oftentimes you're the one who's doing it, or it's your fault for not doing enough or doing too much or whatever. But they are always the victim in whatever it is. Okay, the fifth thing that they do is gaslighting. And what gaslighting is, if you don't know, I know this is one of those terms that gets thrown around quite a lot. is that they say things or do things to make you think that you were crazy. So, as I explained in my video on covert narcissism, it came from a movie, and the husband was blowing out these gas lights, and the wife would say, "Oh, wasn't that just that lamp just lit?" And he would say, "No, it wasn't." And so he was trying to make her crazy. So that's where the term comes from. And so what narcissists will do is they'll say things to you like, "Oh, we discussed that and you agreed." Or, "We had that conversation. I'm sorry, there must have been a misunderstanding on your part." And you know that there was never a misunderstanding, or you didn't have that conversation. But sometimes when people are saying that to you over and over again so many times, you really do start to question your own sanity, which is exactly what they want you to do, because the narcissist wants you to be fully reliant on that person for your self-worth, for your self-esteem, for everything, so that they have total control over you. Okay, the sixth thing that they do is controlling behavior. So, if you're in a relationship with this person, they usually want to be the one to pay the bills, or they want to control all of the aspects of everything, how things look in your home, how the bookshelves are organized, just really everything. They might want to control what you wear, something like that, or who you're seeing, everything about you. And the reason why they do that is going back to the gaslighting conversation, and that is that they want total control over you and over everything that you're doing, so that you are completely reliant on them for all of your needs and all of your self-esteem, which of course they're going to strip from you. And so you end up feeling like you're losing yourself in these relationships. And the last thing they do, and remember, this is just a menu of the main things they do. There may be others, but these are the main things that narcissists do to try to manipulate people. The last thing, number 7, is the project and deflect. So, in other words, basically, they're going to blame you for all of their own behavior, because they have to remain flawless and they're never wrong. So, if you ended up going the wrong way in the car, then it's definitely your fault. If too much money was spent that month, then that was your fault too. Or if you're working with this person and a project didn't get done on time, then that was your fault. Even if it was their fault because they didn't give it to you on time or whatever, they'll never see that. Narcissists generally don't apologize, and they never take responsibility for their actions. So they're going to project it onto you so that you can be the one that's the target, and you're the problem, and you're the one that's triggering their anger. And it's honestly, it's like a black hole that you will never fill, because you're always going to be the problem, and they're always going to have problems. So you're constantly trying to catch up to fix things that are never going to be fixed. There's never going to be an end to what needs to be fixed, or in you or for them. So if you are dealing with a narcissist, first of all, I'm sorry. I've been there too. It totally sucks. And the thing that I really need to tell you, and I've dealt with them in my own personal life, in business and in other areas, and also as an attorney, I've represented them. I've had them on the other side. So I understand this personality very, very well. And the thing that I have to tell you is you have to take appropriate measures to try to get them out of your life, because it's going to start affecting your health, not only your mental health, but your physical health as well. I mean, it's so difficult to get over having this person in your life. It's almost like having PTSD. So, I mean, your cortisol levels go up, you get ulcers, heart attacks, all kinds of things can happen to you. So you've got to start figuring out a way to get this person out of your life. So, whether it's going to be physical barriers, whether it's a divorce, whether it's, find a different job, or whatever it is that you need to do. But I would try to work this person out of your life, whether it's distant, maybe you limit the communication in a certain way. Maybe you create barriers that you need to in order to protect yourself. But do what you need to do to protect yourself from this person.
Reflecting on your journey, and you've you've come so far and you've accomplished so much, and you've really overcome so much in your life, and it's so much struggle and so much um, I mean, really, and you're in some ways, you really are an inspiration to so many. Um, what message would you have for people who are facing what might seem like insurmountable pain or conflict right now?
I do a few things. I think music is a great brain changer, and I'm always playing to my emotions. So I have different playlists that start with however I feel. If I'm angry, I got an angry song, and then song by song by song by song, I take myself into another mood. And at the end, it's always Anita Baker, "You Bring Me Joy," and I'm doing those second runs with her. So that's one thing I do. I exercise because, again, that's endorphins. That's me fighting the fight without engaging anybody anyway. I write down everything. I write through, even on my Instagram posts. I start with the feeling and I write through until I can work it out. I may start out upset, but I end up calm because I don't take my emotional life for granted. I work on it. Just like I work on it harder than I worked on being a lawyer. I mean, I work on it. And if you work, and then I have joys during the day that I demand that I do. I have a little crochet needle near everything in case, so I never have a mind that wanders and gets bored. Um, I have the right people to call at the right time for the right need. And it's always the battle I fight is always with me, so that when I show up with the rest of the world, I'm in good shape. I mean, not that I'm glacial. I got some friends that are glacial, and I do call one of them Kay, glacial. I call her. She's like, "Okay, Lynn, here we go." But the fight I gotta fight is with me. If I come correct, because you can't think as well when you're upset. When you're mad, your brain don't function as well. You miss stuff. You go off on tangents. You can't see a good exit path. You can't say, "I'm sorry." Listen, I will apologize in a minute. If you know what, I was wrong, I apologize. I'm so sorry. Because I'm not wasting my time arguing. It doesn't. I don't. I don't want to be right. I want to be right, with the emphasis on the object and not the subject.
Yeah, or like you want your head on straight.
Right.
Yeah.
I just don't want to win the argument. I want to be right.